in order to get the ships running as locomotives in Trainz, which is my next piece of content for Trainz railsim, what I've done is I've taken one of my static models of a Tramp steamer. This is the SS Waterloo, and you can see here this is where it is, and let's make that nice and big. And that's quite an old model I made now some time back, but I think it's still pretty effective. And what I've done is, in the original scenery model, what I did is I put the keel, the lowest part of the hull, on the zero height line. But this time what I've done with the model is I've lowered it down to what I'm guessing is the plimsoll line, the line above which the ship shouldn't, that plimsoll line should never be below the surface of the water. It's the loading limit. And all I've done then is I've added in the basic attachment points that are needed for a locomotive. So this is the limb back, limb front, an invisible bogie there, and an invisible bogie there, and a smoke attachment for the chimney. And these are all set on the zero height, so that when it's imported into Trainz, that will, as it were, be sunk into the ground, or rather, assuming, and I sincerely hope you do this, because it'd be very odd if you didn't, that your water level for the sea is at 0 feet. That's the normal that's the normal height for the water. That is the water level. Then of course what will happen is that the lower part of the hull will be below the surface of the water correctly, and the surface of the water should be where these grid lines are. Okay, so that's what I've done there, and I'm going to do this with each of the models of ships that I've done, and to make them, turning them basically into locomotives. So that means of course that what you have to do is then in Trainz itself prepare it to receive locomotives which are actually ships but running on invisible track across the terrain, and I've already done that to demonstrate this to you. So let's just come out of this, and here we are. Here's Trainz railsim. This is in Surveyor, and you can see there is the steamship Waterloo, and it's pretty straightforward the way in which it's positioned. And you can see here this blue line, which is the invisible track, and the invisible track which I used, let me go up to track, here it is, I just found this one, invisible track BNSF 50. So I'm not sure who's done that, so many thanks for the person who did that. And I've got various other invisible tracks there, but I found that one, I've decided to use that one because I can actually just about see it. And all I've done here, this, as you can see, is just a rough grid, and all I've done is raised a bit of the ground above 0 feet, and then I put water in at 0 feet, and then added some colouring underneath that. And if you then add the water, and then add the invisible track at 0 feet, and that will give you the track by which your ship will go. And my suggestion is you set this up using the automatic points along the track, put in plenty of sea, and let it sail away in the distance, and then have a circular track so that it basically comes back round to the same point. And if you make a lot of sea rather out there, way beyond this single, this is just, as you can see, just a single grid, so very small indeed, then you'll actually get a decent sort of movement for your ship. Now the engine spec I've used on this is designed for a very low speed, and these Tramp steamers would never have gone very fast indeed. You can use the miles per hour, it's more or less the same as knots, but anyway, let's get it going. And it will start slowly, which is very much how these ships would have begun. You can just see it moving here, look, with the water. Let's give it a bit more acceleration, and we can just make out it. There it is, it's moving away. If we pull back, if I change the view to free roaming, then we can see the ship is now getting well underway. It's 7 knots, that's more really than it wants to be. You want to keep this as about 5 knots. So it just takes a little bit of adjusting. But that's about the maximum speed. These tramp steamers, they tramped along. That was the whole point about them. They didn't go zooming about like some speedboat or anything like that. So use a low speed, set it going at a low speed, and it'll just look the part then, I think. I think that's pretty good. I rather like that. And what I've done, of course, is underneath the water I put a dark texture on the seabed, because obviously you don't want the grid showing through, and also you just want to hide the fact. But there it is. I mean, okay, there's no bow wave. I haven't worked out how you could possibly do that in Trainz, if you even could. But there we are, and there's some smoke coming out the funnel, so it's actually moving. And it's under its engine rather than the sails, so I haven't worried about the sails being set. And there we are. You can see nice big curves, slow movement, 5 knots, and there we are. There's the SS Waterloo, steamship Waterloo. That's about the 1890s, something like that, 1880s. So you can have one tied up and another one sailing about, or you can have several tied up if you want, or whatever you like. So that's the first of my old models, of my original models of these sort of tramp steamers, and I've got a couple of others which you can download as scenery items, and I'm now in the process of animating these so they'll operate as locomotives. Of course, if you really want to be, very silly indeed, I'm just going to stop that, then of course you could put it on track on land, but not really realistic, is it? So try and do it properly so it looks like a proper ship at sea. And actually, there we are down under the water. Actually, when you get down, it's not a bad view at all. Maybe still a little bit low in the water, but no, I think that's about the plimsoll line. There certainly wasn't much freeboard. That's the height of the ship above, where the waves are going to splash onto it and that. So I mean, these were pretty tough coasting, and sort of home waters, maybe down to the Mediterranean. They're not major Atlantic sailing ships, I don't think. Ocean sailing ships, I don't think they would have gone too far. So there we are. That's my first animated ship, and I shall quickly work through the others, and that will be released fairly shortly. So today's the 1st of December 2018, so I would say before Christmas these will be out, and when I update my website. But in the meantime, do think about how you could use these. I've got some other ideas as well, especially with canals, but I'll come back to that. And I have in fact invested in a couple of new books, or new to me anyway, old books, which give me plans of these types of ships. So I think these in any harbour and any sort of seaside terminus location would be a real asset in Trainz, especially if you're covering the period before the First World War, before 1914, but even into the 20s and 30s they certainly would have carried on, and they give you an interesting addition to your Trainz layout. I did think about adding in things like loads and various other aspects, but I just wanted to keep it simple at this stage. I may come back and improve on this and add the possibility to load and unload cargo, but of course I don't really want to get into is a massive animation, because it would just clog up the engine, the graphics engine, or at least on my PC it will, because it's an i5, but the more you do in Trainz, the more memory it takes. Now clearly you'll see here from the grid that I've only done this little demonstration piece here, and if you were doing this, my suggestion is that if the coastline is running along there, I would add 3 or 4 more just sea grids, just full of sea, and take the track right out and then bring it right back again, because you would then get a pretty good impression of the ship sailing off into the sunset or wherever, and then coming back to deliver its cargo. You could even set it so that it pauses for some considerable time at the furthest point and then returns, but that, I think you do need a circular track for that, rather than don't sort of start adding points, and don't have other too many ships on the same track, or tracks crossing too much, because you'll have collisions, although they won't actually collide, but I mean it'll look weird. So there we are. That's the first of my animated loco set ships, and more to follow. So if you like this video, and I hope you did, then please give it a thumbs up. Please leave a comment if you have anything you want to ask or you want to say about it, and also please subscribe to my channel on YouTube, ING4Trainz. It's free. I don't know who you are when you subscribe. It just encourages me to make more of these videos, and indeed to make more models, which I thoroughly enjoy doing.